Hello. The Oscars are upon us, and depending on when you're watching this, they're either in 2 days, tomorrow, or they've already happened. Or maybe they're today if you're watching this on Sunday. Um, the Oscar season is one of my favorite times of year. I love the award show. I love seeing my favorite movies of the year, or some of my favorite movies of the year, get recognized. And yeah, it's subjective, but I do still think that there's value in the awards and the award system, even if sometimes it feels like it's more political than it is about awarding the best thing. And when I say political, I don't mean like government, like politics. I mean like social politics and stuff like that. So every year I do the Oscar death race. I've actually been doing it for a few years now. A few years ago, I was one short film away from succeeding. And let me tell you, it used to be back in my day, back when I was a young buck, back in my day, we watched the Best Picture winners. Most people, if they were, trying to do that, trying to prepare for the Oscars, they'd watch the Best Picture nominees, and if they could, they'd try to watch the Best Actors, the above the line stuff. They would definitely try to get to all of that if they could, but it was time before streaming. It was more difficult to come across some of those. So that's where I originated. I used to travel hours away from my home because I was lived in kind of a small town and try to catch all the Best Picture nominees. And I worked in a video store, so if they were out, that it was easy access for me. But if they weren't out yet on video, it was, well, where can I watch them? I remember driving 2 hours once and watching 3 movies in a row. That year, that was actually a really good year for me, because the 3 movies I watched in a row was The Aviator, followed by Sideways, followed by $1 Million Baby. And each movie I was like, this is winning Best Picture. And I was right, because the last one I watched was $1 Million Baby, and it won Best Picture. So yeah, this has always been a time that I enjoy, a good time for me. But let's talk here. I finished the death race. I watched all 50 movies that were nominated for any awards, and I'm going to go through some of the awards. I'm mostly going to focus on above the line stuff. I am going to focus a bit on a couple categories that aren't necessarily considered above the line, but still ones that I definitely want to talk about. I'm going to go through these briefly. If there are any of these that you want me to do a full review on or talk more about, please let me know in the comments, because I'd be happy to talk about any of these a little bit more if people want to hear that. But I'm going to start with the 3 that are not considered above the line. And I know some people put some of the more tech stuff above the line, like editing. I'm going to go a little bit more traditional on this. Above the line for me is picture, director, all of the acting categories, the writing categories, and the 3 that are below the line, or outside. They're not below the line by definition, but they are outside of above the line and below the line. First one I'm going to talk about is Best International Picture, and what I'm going to do when I'm talking about these is I'm going to go through kind of my ranking, or how I kind of feel about them, and then I'm going to give a prediction. And let me just tell you that my prediction for what I think is going to win each category could change tomorrow. It could change on Oscar Sunday. If you're watching this after Oscar Sunday, it has already changed potentially. But I'm just going to tell you that, things move fast in these situations, and some of them I'm really struggling with. So I'm teetering, and I might say one today that changes, that I change to something else later. So we're going to talk about Best International Picture for this, and my ranking goes lowest. Number 5 is Emilia Perez. You're going to see Emilia Perez at the bottom of a lot of this, just because it's a movie I admire more than I enjoy. I love when a movie swings for the fences, when it just goes for it and it tries things that you don't normally see. I love that. And this did that. And that aspect of it really kind of worked for me. What didn't work for me is I felt like uh, there wasn't enough cohesion in the swinging for the fences and the gritty crime drama that they were trying to make. Which a good hybrid, I love that. The cohesion is not strictly necessary for something like that, but in this case, I do think that it did the movie a disservice to not have that cohesion. There's also the fact that the communities that it's trying to represent have basically all come out and said, no, this is bad. This doesn't represent us. And there is that aspect of it too. Like, yeah, I love a good piece of art that tries something, but also like, if you are not working in the best interest of these communities, then you're just exploiting them. And that is a issue I have with Emilia Perez. The trans community and the Mexican community both said, this is not us. They are not representing us in this film. Don't look to this as a representation of us. And I respect that. And that does affect it for me. There's also the fact that the director, when I've heard him giving some of his speeches, he almost fetishizes the sisterhood that he keeps talking about. And it makes it feel icky considering the movie itself and just kind of what he is saying in these speeches. So it's not one that I particularly love or enjoy. I do enjoy aspects of it a lot. Which we might talk about here pretty soon. Number 4 is Girl with the Needle. This one, it's a good movie. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't really like holding me. Like, it was very uncomfortable, and there were parts where I was just like, God, I can't believe I have to watch this. It was rather upsetting at parts, which it's supposed to be. But there were some parts that are just really upsetting, and it's weird because the titular girl with the needle, the act that happens with the needle, is the least messed up thing in this movie. Like, it's kind of insane. I will say that at the end of the movie, there is a title on screen that tells you information about it, which I don't necessarily want to say. But once it does that, it contextualizes it in a way that makes it feel even more fucked up and does, I think, improve the movie for me a little bit. But yeah, that's at number 4. These top 3 are very special to me. I love all 3 of these top 3 very, very much. But without any further ado, Flow is number 3. I think it's a beautiful film. I enjoyed the hell out of watching this movie. These other 2 work so well for me, and here's why. The top 2 work well for me. The top 2 are See the Sacred Fig and I'm Still Here. And I'll tell you my ranking here in just a second of those 2. But the reason is because I absolutely love a movie where characters stand up to oppressors, or a movie where characters resist power, or where they rebel in some way against something unjust. I'm an easy mark for that. I'm very much a revolution person. I enjoy a good revolution, and these 2 had that. But the thing is, here's the thing: is like both of these happened in a situation that could be pretty violent, but revolution comes in all forms, all different forms, and sometimes it's about keeping your family together, which is what my number 2 movie does really well, explores really well, which is I'm Still Here. Fernanda Torres is so good in this movie. I mean, one of my favorite movie moms. While she's not maybe always just the best mom on screen, she is just so wonderful. She's vulnerable and strong at the same time, and her character loves her kids so much and her family so much, and seeing the struggle that she has to go through, and now she has this mission. She didn't want this mission. She was a politician's wife. Like that was her deal. She had all of these friends, and now she's kind of in this thing, and it's not a super action-packed thing where that you would expect kind of from a revolution. It's just, I want my family to be together, and I want these people to leave my family alone. And that is just it's so wonderfully told and so compellingly shot, and the acting across the board, not just Fernanda Torres, although she is incredible. Across the board, they're all just really, really great in this film. I'll talk about more about that a little bit later too. But my number one on the international films is Seed of the Sacred Fig. There's because this one takes that one step forward in act of rebellion, in that it had to be made in secret and they had to sneak it out of the country. And if he ever returns, or maybe he has, I don't know the entire backstory, but upon returning, he will be, or was, I think he will be arrested and tried for whatever. It's that act of rebellion. But talk about performances. This ensemble in this movie, we woefully disregarded this ensemble during award season because they were all so good. The daughters, oh my God, were, and the fact that they were risking something by doing this and giving these incredible performances. I really, really loved this film. I was gripped from beginning to end. It takes some dark turns, but the incredible cast and the incredible writing and the directing kind of guide you through it in a way that makes it a little bit more palatable and less difficult to watch. Although there are some parts that are difficult, very difficult. But yeah, I absolutely love that movie. That is my favorite international film of the year. But the one that I think is going to win, here's the thing, is that Emilia Perez has been the front runner for a long time, or was the front runner for a very long time. But back when the awards were announced, I declared at that time, I'm Still Here is going to upset Emilia Perez. That seems far more likely now. I just need everybody to know that I did say it back then. But I do think that I'm Still Here is going to win for best international feature. I think that number one, it's nominated for best picture and for best actress. So like it's got that going for it. But over Emilia Perez, which has been just plagued with controversy, and a lot of controversy that happened before the Oscar voting closed. So I think that it is going to upset Emilia Perez, even though we may not call it that anymore. But yeah, I think I'm Still Here is going to be our international picture. Next, we're going to move on to best documentary. Now, remember what I said about being just an easy mark for movies about people who stand up to regimes or stand up to power. And usually I can find one or two documentaries in the best documentary slate that cover that. It's all five this year, which made this a very good year for documentaries for me. There are a couple documentaries that weren't nominated that I really, really like. The Incredible Life of Evelyn, or The Remarkable Life of Evelyn, and Daughters, Will and Harper. Those are all three ones that I really, really enjoy, that I think could have been in this slate. But I think the slate we got was, for the most part, very, very good. And again, because it's all about standing up and revolution and rebellion, it really worked for me. So I'm happy with what we have. Let's start with number five. And number five is Sugarcane. It's a good movie, and I think it is telling an important thing. It is a little long for where it actually ends up going, and so that kind of it wasn't as breezy as a watch as some of these were for me. Also, some of the subject matter is also, although fictionalized, is also handled. And Nickel Boy is one of the best picture nominees. So I think that is a little bit that may have made it a little bit harder for me, and probably for some people, to enjoy it as much as the other ones. Number four is soundtrack to a coup d'etat. It pains me to have this at number four because I loved this. I love jazz music. Nina Simone is one of my all-time favorite singers ever. I absolutely love Nina Simone, and she's featured pretty heavily in this documentary. But just setting this whole story of this political resistance to a track list of musicians who were involved, who were there. It was just a brilliant idea, and it made for a really compelling documentary that I really loved. Number three. Now we're back to where the top three are all three that I really like, that I love. And number three might be the one I enjoyed watching more than the other ones, but I just think that the other two kind of hit a little bit harder and said something that I thought needed to be said maybe a little bit more right now. But number three is Porcelain War. Oh man, is that beautiful. And there's a dog named Frodo. So that is enough for me as a massive Lord of the Rings fan. But you know, these artists who come together in the face of this of Russia invading their homeland, who have to learn to fight and have to teach other people to fight to rise up to this threat that's coming, that's trying to take over their land, is just, it's remarkable, it's incredible, and the art is really great because you get to see the stuff that they make, and of course it's beautiful. And having these beautiful, if you look at the cover for it, which I'll show right here, it's one of the ceramic owls that they make, porcelain owls that they make, that one of the artists in the film makes, up against a hole that was blown in a wall. And like, it's this, that's really what the movie is. It's these two sides of all these people, these artists and these people who have to become soldiers, even though that's really not what they want to do, but they have to in order to protect their land. It's an incredible film. I really love it. My top two are Black Box Diaries and No Other Land. No Other Land tackles Israel and Palestine, and as a Free Palestine all the way guy, there's something that really worked for me in this. This is my number two, No Other Land. That it just really worked for me. And again, standing up to this power that is coming into their homeland and destroying it and trying to force them out. And they build schools and those are destroyed. It's harrowing and it's heartbreaking. So No Other Land is my number two. Black Box Diaries is my number one. And that's really because I love a story being told by the subject of the story, which you get in No Other Land and Porcelain War. Both of those movies are also made by some of the subjects of the thing, but this one is this one woman trying to get her story out there and get justice and make sure that this kind of thing is taken care of. You know, people in power using that power to assault women or people in general is not a new thing. And it's something that we have been dealing with a lot since 2016, 2017, whenever the Me Too movement really blew up. But this woman's search for justice as she is going through trying to get her government to acknowledge what has happened to her and take the appropriate steps. It's a journalism movie. It is a revolution movie or a rebellion movie. It's a standing up to power. It really ticks a lot of boxes for me, and I think it is so beautifully told. As I said, I really like a movie where the subject is telling their own story. A few years ago, one of my favorite documentaries ever, was For Sama, which was made by. It was a letter to her daughter, Sama, as they were going through the war in Aleppo. And it's incredible seeing this person tell the story as their lives are being threatened every single day, like really badly threatened as they live in a hospital. I'm not here to talk about For Sama, but if you haven't seen it, go see it because it's incredible. But Black Box Diaries is my number one. As far as what I think is going to win, No Other Land has been the front runner for quite a while, basically all season. It was before the nominations were even out. This one was like, this was going to be nominated, it's going to win. And I think there's still a very good chance of that. I think that Porcelain War might have, and credit to Dylan Randazzo, my co-host on Frame Wreck over on the Dill Pickle Movie Network, who you've seen on this channel a bunch of times if you ever watch my stuff. Credit to him for kind of cluing me into this little into this line of thinking, because I think I agree with it, and not necessarily that I'm predicting Porcelain War, but I think it does have a really good shot at upsetting, because number one, we've given the last two best documentary awards were for stories about Ukraine. Navalny, which is one of my favorites, and then last year was 20 Days of Mariupol. I think that the Porcelain War being another Ukraine, talking about the war in Ukraine, or what's going on politically over in Ukraine, does have a really good shot. Plus, if you consider that No Other Land is about the Israeli-Palestine conflict, and there's a lot of people. If you read the ballot, the secret ballots that people have been putting out, people have been saying, like, I want to stay neutral on Israel Palestine. I think that divide might find a way for Porcelain War to come in and upset. Although I am still going No Other Land, at least right now. I got some things. This is one that might change as soon as I'm done recording. But for right now, I'm going with No Other Land as the winner. Which brings me to the last of the outside of the line movie categories, which is Best Animated Feature. My ranking, it goes as such. Number 5 is Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. I liked this movie a lot. It did not do a whole lot for me, at least in the way that the other ones did emotionally. It was very entertaining, and I enjoyed it a lot. I like Aardman. I think I like the stuff that they do. I like Wallace and Gromit. This one it did not hit me in the same way the other ones did. Number 4, and this feels like it's going to be controversial because I love these top 4 a lot. But number 4 is The Wild Robot, which I took my kids to in the theater, and we all loved it. We all cried. We all had a great time. It's a very, very good movie, and I really, really like it. I just happen to have more of an attachment, mostly emotional attachment, to my top 3. Number 3 is Flow. I already talked about it. It's beautiful. I thought it was an incredible experience for a movie where there is absolutely no dialogue. You never feel the fatigue of no dialogue, of that. It doesn't feel like a gimmick. It's definitely well constructed, well made. It's to allow you to not feel that lack of dialogue in it. It's very, very good movie. Number 2 is Inside Out 2. My favorite movie of 2015 was Inside Out, the first one. It's actually, I think, one of the best films of that decade. I absolutely love it. It's incredible. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Inside Out 2. And Inside Out 2 hit something very, very personal with me as a person who struggles with pretty chronic anxiety. Having anxiety be one of the new emotions, and having that scene toward the end where she's having the panic attack, it felt so real. I was in the movie theater, head in my hands, sobbing, because it just felt so real and relatable, and I understood it. So this one has an emotional attachment to me. Flow and Wild Robot may be technically better movies, probably, but Inside Out 2 just has a very special place in my heart because it tells a story that I completely relate to. Which brings me to number 1, my favorite of this, and it's very personal as well, but I think it's also an incredibly made movie, is Memoir of the Snail. I have a younger sister, but she is only 11 months younger than me. So people have always kind of talked about us like we're twins. We're not twins, but we're that close to each other. And one of my biggest fears when I was a kid was that something would happen to my parents and that they would split Lisa and I up, and we wouldn't be able to see that. And that is something that happens in Memoir of a Snail. And it's like reliving one of my biggest fears. It's like living one of my biggest fears, seeing one of my biggest fears realized, even though it's not happening to me, watching that happen to these characters. It also highlighted a type of abuse that I actually didn't know existed until recently. One of my friends, I'm not going to say her name, but one of my dear friends, she had to deal with some of this. I'm not going to go into any sort of detail or anything like that, as that's not my place and I don't want to do that. But if she's watching, I want her to know that I love her very much, and I'm glad you are in a better situation. But the type of abuse is called feederism, and if you don't know what that is, go look it up. I think that more people need to know about it because it is a real thing and it is a control type of abuse, and I think that I think that more people need to know about it. So I'm glad that this movie, this Oscar-nominated movie, highlighted it. Even though it doesn't call it by name, you do see it happening in the film. But I love Memoir of a Snail. Again, it really, really connected with me. So which do I think is going to win? Unfortunately, it's not going to be Memoir of a Snail. It's going to come down to Flo or The Wild Robot in this case. I think Wild Robot is probably the best predictor, the best one to predict here. I think that it has some good momentum. I think a lot of people really like it. Plus, it is an English language movie, which Flow is no language, but it is an international feature. But I am going to predict that Flow is going to win this one. I'm gonna call it now for Flow. Again, that might change for me. Let's go on to Best Actress in a Supporting Role. I talk so much about the outside the line stuff that I kind of need to speed up when I'm talking about these other ones. So if I talk about them less, that's why. Who knows if I can stop myself, though. So Best Supporting Actress or Best Actress in a Supporting Role for 2025 films of 2024. Number 5, I have The Brutalist, just because Felicity Jones, I did not particularly care for her performance, and it wasn't the character. Some people have suggested, well, maybe it's because the character is not super likable. It's not that. I do not see what other people have seen in her performance. It also doesn't help that she is in the second half, which is the half that I don't like quite as much. And I don't think it's her fault, but I think that could be a factor in both things, and why I don't like the second half as much, or why I don't particularly enjoy her performance very much. It doesn't work for me in the way that some of these others do. Isabella Rossellini in Conclave, I think she's an incredible actress. I think there's a question of, is this her time? Is she due? I don't like the argument that someone gets an award because it's their turn or anything like that, because I think that kind of muddies the waters a bit too much for me. It does a disservice to the awards themselves. But she's incredible. But she's in it for 30 seconds or something. No, she's in that more than that. But she's not in it very much, and the role isn't incredibly meaty. So it's hard to. It's really hard to judge her against the other ones anyway. Number 3 is Monica Barbaro in A Complete Unknown. I thought she was very, very good as Joan Baez. I thought she was incredible. Again, she kind of suffers from this. She's not in it a whole lot. I mean, she's in it throughout, but she doesn't. A lot of it, she's just kind of in the background or doing a thing. But when she is on screen and making a presence, she's really, really great, and I'm excited to see her in more things in the future, because she does a really, really great job. She just happens to be number 3 for me because of how much I enjoy some of the other ones. Number 2 is Amelia Perez. This is the highest she's ever going to get in my predictions here, or in my rankings here, because I think Zoe Saldana is great. She's the best part of the movie. Some would argue, well, she's a lead because it's really about her, but it's about Amelia Perez and her relationship. We could argue that all day. I don't really have a very, very strong opinion on what should and shouldn't be decided for supporting and leading. I just will say that I think Zoe Saldana is the best part of this movie, and I think that if she wins, it will be very much deserved, because she's very, very good. And my number 1 is Ariana Grande Butera for Wicked. I left that movie stunned, because I went into that movie very skeptical. When they announced that she was going to be playing Glinda in this play that I really, really liked, I really love Wicked. I've seen versions of it several times. And that's a character I really enjoy watching on screen. So when they said that she was going to be in this, I was like, oh God, no. Because I was too old to have seen her really on Nickelodeon, but I've seen clips of that, and I was like, oh God, this is not going to be good. And I was very, very nervous. And I walked in very skeptical, and I walked out a fan. I loved her performance so much. She steals the show most of the time. It's really a two-hander. Her and Cynthia Erivo are great together, and they are the show. But there are times where she is stealing the show from her, and it's because she is the more zany character than Elphaba, who is more of the straight man. But I really loved that. I loved her in it, and I was so shocked. She is my favorite supporting performance of this slate here, of the best supporting actress slate. Who do I think is going to win? I think it's going to be Zoe Saldana. I think that's been written in that's been written in stone for months. I think it's going to be her. She is not going to be affected by the Amelia Perez backlash. I think because her role stands out so much in the film, and it stands outside of what all the stuff that is wrong, that people find wrong with the movie or the other people involved in the movie. But I think Zoe Saldana is taking this. I think it's easy. I think that's probably one of my biggest confidence votes. Best supporting actor of 2025. We're going to start out at number 5 with Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice. I think he's incredible. I think he does a really, really great job. I actually am. I love Succession, but every time I see Jeremy Strong in something, I have this internal struggle where I wonder, is he a bad actor, or is he a really good actor at playing characters that seem like they're played by bad actors? I don't know. I think I go back and forth on him because I've seen some that make me cringe so hard, and I've seen some that I really, really enjoy, but they feel the same as the ones that made me cringe. So I always wonder, is he a bad actor? I watch this and I'm like, oh no, he's a good actor. At least here, most of the time, I think he's probably a really good actor, and he's really great in this. Yora Borisov in Honora is my number 4. I think he's great. Mark Adelstein is my favorite of the supporting actors in that movie. I really wished I was really open for him a nomination, but it was a long shot, and I knew it was going to happen. I love Yora Borisov. I just really love some of these others a bit more. My number 3 is Guy Pearce in The Brutalist. I think he is really, really great as a really great villain. And yes, sometimes he's not a great villain. He's an icky villain that you don't like and you don't want to see on screen anymore. But I think that is a testament to his performance, because he doesn't always feel like the villain. Sometimes he feels like a person you want to see on screen. You want to see more of him. And then when he is at his worst, character-wise, not performance-wise, when he is at his worst, you want him to get off your screen. I think that is the mark of a really good villain, especially when I think the majority of the time you do want to see him there and you do enjoy the character quite a lot. I think he does a really great job, and I'm happy he is nominated, but he is my number 3. Number 2 is Edward Norton in A Complete Unknown. This is another one where I went in skeptical. I have seen many Edward Norton performances, and I've never really ever been blown away by an Edward Norton performance. I think he's great. I like him in a lot of stuff, but it all feels very Edward Norton-y and very, I know what I'm going to get when I get an Edward Norton performance. And that's kind of how I feel about his performance generally most of the time. So I was shocked when I went into this movie, and it felt different, and it looked different, and it felt like he wasn't going into his worst instincts, which feels like he does a lot. He wasn't giving into those bad instincts a lot. So I think this is a transformative role for him. I think that I'm glad he was nominated for this role because it's one of his best. But my number 1 is, and the one that's going to win. I'm sorry, I'll just give it to you here. Number 1 and the one that's going to win is Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain. It's just a great performance. And yes, there's an argument of whether he is best actor, if he should have been in best actor, or if he should be in best supporting actor. I have an argument on that. I won't bore you with the whole thing here. I would just say that we never see his point of view without his cousins, but we see his cousin without him. So that's just where I kind of delineate it there. But, there's some studio meddling and some people who just want to see him in win. And so they're going to put him here, and that's fine with me. I don't think this muddies the waters too much, because I think the argument can be made. And a convincing argument, and one that I agree with, that he is a supporting character in this movie, even though it is two-hander, and they could be considered co-leads here. But yeah, Kieran Culkin makes you laugh, makes you cry. It feels very relatable. It feels like someone you know by the end of it. Like you feel like you know this person, and you feel like you understand his cousin so much because you've known a person like this, a person who you love, but sometimes you can't stand to be around, but often you want they're the only person you want to be around, and you want to be just like them, and then sometimes you want to be far away from them. We all know that type of a person, and I think that Kieran Culkin expertly uh, retrieves that character from inside of him and puts it on screen, and I absolutely adore it. So Kieran Culkin's going to win for Best Supporting Actor. You can lock that one in too. That one's not changing for me unless there's nothing, because voting's ended. Like Will Smith slapped someone on the Oscar stage. That didn't affect his win because the voting had already ended. So it brings us to Best Actress. Number 5 is Amelia Perez. I don't even want to say her name really right now because I think it's wonderful that a trans actress was nominated for Best Actress. I just wish it would have been someone who was a little less shitty, and say what you want about the situation. If you have comments about that in the comments, or if you have comments about it, you want me to know, to put them in the comments. I'll hear you out. I don't really want to give her a platform here. And I'm glad she was nominated. I just don't want to talk about her. Number 4 is Cynthia Erivo in Wicked. And I love this performance so much. She's so good in this role. But again, she does play that straight role for majority of the movie. That does make it easier for on Ariana Grande Botera to be noticed and to get that acclaim. So I do think that unfortunately does put her down just a little bit for me, but not because I think she's a bad performance. I think it's an incredible performance that I'm so glad was nominated. Number 3 is Mikey Madison in Anora, and I can hear you all yelling at me. I'm so sorry. I love it. The problem is the two that are above it for me, and that's the problem here. I absolutely love her in this movie. I've loved her in everything I've seen her in so far. I love her in this the most, and she is magnetic on screen. This movie is about her. She is the movie, as my friend Dylan would say. And absolutely nothing against her by putting her at number 3. I just happen to like Fernanda Torres in I'm Still Here just a little bit more, and it's that mom thing. I talked about my sister who sadly passed away a couple years ago, and now I need to talk about my mom who passed away several years ago as well. And there's something about a great mom role that really has a profound effect on me. And it doesn't have to be like a good mom; it could just be a mom role, and one that I can see, I can see my mom in, even though they weren't exactly the same. Her love for her kids in this movie is really the thing that made me feel my mom's presence. I grew up without a dad. My dad wasn't around. I mean, I had a dad, but he wasn't really around. So it was all about my mom for me. And the love that she shows in this, and the vulnerability and the strength that Fernanda Torres displays during this movie are very much my mother, because she had to be strong to raise these two rambunctious kids who were me and my sister were the same, just had to have the laughs and had to be rebellious and just did all. It was tough for my mom, but to raise these kids on 3 jobs and not enough money, she had to be very, very strong, but it also made her vulnerable at times when because she was having to go through all of this and go through it alone with just her children. So there is something about the performance that really connects me to my mom. But even if it wasn't about my mom, supposing you don't have a mom and you saw it and you said, I love this movie anyway, or I love this performance anyway, and you should, because she's incredible. And it's for all the reasons I said, but you don't have to have a personal connection. You don't have to have a personal connection to it to know how incredible she is. She is just magnificent on screen. She's magnetic. She's every second she's on there, she draws you in, and I just think she's incredible. But my number 1 is and ranking this number 1 is slightly personal as well, but it's The Substance. We'll talk about The Substance and my love for it in a moment. But I'm always the type of person, I said it before, like I don't like it when it's someone's turn or something like that, or when we prioritize the story over the story of the win over the performances and stuff like that. But when those things coincide with a incredible performance, and it's slightly understated, but it is an incredible performance from Demi Moore in The Substance. It just all comes together, and it has to happen. That's how I feel. I would love to see Fernando Torres take that trophy. I would love to see Mikey Madison win a trophy. I win the Oscar, the big one. I would love to see those things happen. But for me, it feels like, because I love Demi Moore's performance so much in The Substance, and this satisfies this story of this person who was neglected by Hollywood for so long, and especially once she aged out of the roles that she used to have, which is really what The Substance is about. This person who went through all this, making this comeback, being in this incredible film that is that really highlights the struggle that she went through, and seeing her transform on screen, because you see it several times. Like, she does have, sometimes her performance is very understated and she is just playing woman in LA, but sometimes she is loud, she is angry, she is pissed, she's upset, and I know I said 3 words there that all mean the same thing, but there's just moments where she just lets out, like, she feels so reserved for a lot of the movie, that when she lets out these big, huge emotions, you can feel it. It's palpable. You can feel it coming through the screen at you. I just really, really love this performance. So for me, this is number 1. What do I think is going to win? I think it has to be her. I think Mikey Madison is poised for an upset. She could very, very well upset here. And if there has to be an upset, I'd love to see Fernando Torres upset as well, if we had to have that. But no, I don't want that. I want Demi Moore to win, and I think she's going to. I had this locked in for a long time. It looked like Mikey Madison was going to come in, swoop in, and take it. I don't think it's going to happen. Lock it down. Demi Moore is winning Best Actress at the Oscars, and Substance is winning Best Hair and Makeup. That's also, you can lock it in. But let's move on to Best Actor. My number 5 is Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice. I will say that I really did love this performance quite a bit. And I didn't love it at first, because you're going through and it just feels like Sebastian Stan. You feel like you're watching Sebastian Stan. But what you don't realize until later in the movie is that you're slowly watching him become the Donald, the person that we would love to loathe, and just straight up loathe in our lives, at least for me. Seeing him become that character, and he slowly transitions into who that character is, that by the end it's indistinguishable. He is Donald Trump, which I think is the strength. I think that's what got him this nomination. Unfortunately, it wasn't because of the way that went. It did fall to the bottom of my ranking, because I think everybody else gives a more consistent throughout the entire movie performance, which he did. Here's the thing: he did give a consistent across the board performance, but I didn't notice it until later. Like, that's the issue with that for me. So it does come in at number 5. Number 4 is Ralph Fiennes in Conclave. He holds this picture together. Without him and the performance that he gives, it wouldn't have been nearly as compelling. He is that character that we follow throughout, and he is our guide through this movie. And he never makes you, he never keeps you bored. He's always there, giving a really great performance, and I really love it. So number 4 is Conclave. Number 3 is Timothée Chalamet in A Complete Unknown. He does a great job. He sounds like Bob Dylan. He looks like Bob Dylan. He does Bob Dylan mannerisms. He does all the things you're supposed to do in a biopic. He does it really, really well, which I definitely appreciate. And, James Mangold doesn't always demand that out of a person. I mean, you look at Walk the Line. For Walk the Line, it was more about getting a great performance out of these actors than having these actors perform like the characters they were playing. For this one, it felt a lot like we need this to feel real and authentic. And Timothée Chalamet completely understood the assignment and did it. Number 2 is Adrian Brody and The Brutalist. I think he's great. I think that we don't need to be discussing the AI enhancements to his Hungarian accent at all, because they do that in movies, and it's not generative AI. It is they are using artificial intelligence that was created for this purpose. That doesn't steal anything from anyone else. It just is there to make this feel more authentic. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that it did anything to his performance that we need to that would take away from his nomination here or his potential win. I think he's great. It is an incredible performance that I really, really love. But unfortunately, I just connected to Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing so deeply, and I always connect to Coleman Domingo pretty well, or really, really well. So this wasn't a surprise by any means, but it does. It's Coleman Domingo. He was incredible, and he made me laugh. He made me cry. He made me eat buttered popcorn. It was a really great performance and a really great movie. So that is my number 1 performance of the Best Actor slate. As far as who's going to win, this one's down to Adrian Brody and Timothée Chalamet. And I think Brody is the front runner right now. I think I've got to predict an upset, though. I think Timothée Chalamet is going to sweep in and get that upset. I think that there are going to be some people who are probably going to be fixated on the AI thing, even though I don't think it's going to be a lot, because I think a lot of them are going to understand the process of movies a lot better than the trolls on the internet do. But if we look at the SAG win, which I know happened after the ballots were closed, after the voting ended for the Oscars, I do think it shows that the largest portion of the Academy preferred that performance, or at least voted to have that performance win. So and that's not the only reason. There are lots of little things. It's sometimes a gut thing. I talk about this all the time. For me, I'm a little bit old school, so there is a gut thing to it. I just have this gut feeling, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'll be all right with that. I'll live with the fact that I'm calling this upset, because I know it is a longer shot. I could be safe and go with Brody, but I'm going to call the upset. Timothée Chalamet is going to win Best Actor, which brings us to Best Director. At number 5 is Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez, which is not going to be a surprise. It's not a film that I love. I don't particularly enjoy what I've seen from him since I've seen the movie, just personally. So it's number 5. Number 4 is James Mangold for A Complete Unknown. I love James Mangold. He makes he makes dad movies, and I'm a dad, and that can't be the only reason, because I loved him before I was a dad. But he makes a lot of movies that I love. I struggling to think of a movie of his that I don't enjoy. I'm sure there's one, but for the most part, I really, really like James Mangold's movies. I've defended the by the numbers aspect of A Complete Unknown before, because they're his numbers. He kind of created that process with Walk the Line, but I do feel like I do feel like it's not. It just doesn't hit the heights of these other movies in terms of what I saw from the directing. Now, he does direct 2 really great performances, and I think that mostly that can be that is testament to the actors themselves, but it is testament to the director as well. So maybe I should have him a little bit higher. I don't know, but I have him at number 4. Number 3 is Brady Corbet for The Brutalist. I think that the steps he took to make this movie, the stretches that he made, the fact that he made a 2.5 hour movie with an intermission, making it almost 3 hours, and just kind of structuring this movie like its architecture, I think he did an incredible job. And I would not be upset to see him win the Best Director award, Oscar. I could probably even put him higher on this as well, but I'm not. I'm going to leave him at number 3. My number 2 is Sean Baker for Nora. I just think he made a really, really great film, and you can always tell with his films that they feel very personal, and you could feel his influence through. He's an auteur. Like this feels like a Sean Baker movie because it is, but his fingerprints are all over it. So that helps me in putting it at number 2. Number 1, Coralie Farge for The Substance. And I know there's a substance bias here. You can see it. You can all see my substance bias because I love The Substance. But I think that she crafted the most inventive, the most entertaining for me film of the year. The most, she got some really great performances. She made this uncomfortable, funny, scary, wild, batshit crazy ride of a movie. And just the sheer craft that she put into it, the passion and the love that you can tell is in this movie. It just, Coralie Farge gets the Matty Award for Best Director. But who do I think is going to win? I think it's going to be Sean Baker. I think it's kind of a toss up for me between as far as who I think is going to win between Brady Corbet and Sean Baker. But I think Sean Baker's got this. I think that he. It's his to lose at this point, and voting has already ended. So there's not anything he can do. He's going to have to win it and enjoy that. Which brings me to Best Adapted Screenplay. I should have the who wrote these on all of these, but I don't. I'm just going to tell you what they are in my ranking and then pick a winner here. Because I'm not going to have a lot to say about the writing necessarily, except for one. But 5 is Emilia Perez. Big surprise. Number 4 is Complete Unknown. Number 3 is Nickel Boys. Number 2 is Conclave, and number 1 is Sing Sing. I just think that the Clarence Macklin, you can feel because I know that he was one of the writers on Sing Sing. You can feel the care that is being put into the subject, and you can feel it on screen through the writing. So that is number 1 for me. Which one do I think is going to win? It's going to be Conclave. It's Conclave's to lose. And again, they can't lose it at this point. Conclave is going to win this award, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Which brings me to Best Original Screenplay. I have September 5 at number 5. And it's a screenplay I really like, and I really enjoyed that movie, actually. I knew a lot about this situation based on, I saw One Day in September documentary, which is incredible. It's one of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen. Of course, I haven't seen it in over 20 years, so maybe it's not anymore. But from the way that it feels on my heart, it is. And I think this is really, really well made movie, and the writing is really good. And I'm glad that this movie got one nomination, and so I'm here for it being here. It's just my number 5. Number 4 is The Brutalist. This would be higher if I liked the second half more, and that is maybe on me, but I just don't like the second half as nearly as much as I like the first half. So it does, and that has to do with the structure of it, which has to do with the writing. So that's where I put it. Number 3 is Nora. And that's just because of how well I like the other 2 is the only reason it's down so low. Again, just beautifully written, hilarious, very funny. And again, you can feel the influence of Sean Baker in there. And it feels very much like his thumbprint on it. And I love that from a filmmaker. But number 2 is A Real Pain by Jesse Eisenberg, who I do know wrote that. Jesse Eisenberg is just so relatable, and you can feel the truth in the writing in this film. But my number 1 is Coralie Farge for The Substance. Again, I know the substance bias. It's just, go read that screenplay. The way that she plays with that medium in the screenplay. And it's not even a thing that you can see on screen, the way she plays with the medium of the screenplay. But when you read the screenplay and you see how she plays with it, you know why that movie turned out to be so great, and why it turned out to be the movie that it is, because you can feel it, or you can see it directly on the page in black and white. it's an incredible screenplay to read. It's an incredible screenplay to see play out in the movie. It's my number one. What do I think is going to win? I think Anora has got best original screenplay. Although I would very much enjoy seeing, I'd really very much enjoy Coralie Farge winning, but I would not hate seeing Jesse Eisenberg upset that. But I think Anora's got this. I think Anora's got director and original screenplay, which brings me to Best Picture. This is the last one. This is a long video, I know, but we're almost done. So at number 10, can you all guess it? Shout it at the screen for me. If you can guess it, type it in type it in the comments right now. And everybody just put Emilia Perez, didn't they? Yes, they did. Number 10 is Emilia Perez. Number 9 is A Complete Unknown, which again is a movie I very much enjoyed. Just is much lower than anything else. Nickel Boys is number 8. Liked it very much. I like the style of it. I like the what it's saying and the story that it's telling. The rest of them connected to me a lot better. Number 7 is Dune Part 2, which I did not see coming, considering how much I love Dune Part 1, and I did love Dune Part 2 as well. I did not expect that to be in the bottom 4 of my Best Picture rankings, back when I saw it, but here we are. And maybe it's been too long. Maybe I need to revisit it again, and maybe it would rise up. But based on my memory of it, which it feels fresh, I don't know. It's number 7. Number 6 is The Brutalist, and I can hear Chadwick Webb right now cursing me because of how perfect he I don't know that he considers it perfect, but the masterpiece he considers Brutalist. And I also very much enjoy it. I love the first half. I think the first half is a masterpiece. Second half drags a little bit too much. It just doesn't work for me quite as well as the rest of the film. And that does have an effect on my feeling on the film overall. And maybe that's a me problem, but that's where it is. Conclave is number 5. Not much to say about it. I just really like that movie. Anora is number 4, and I have more people yelling at me right now. And I think it's just the personal connection I have to the other ones that puts it lower than there. Wicked, best time, one of the best experiences I had at the theater this year. I was nervous that it was not going to live up the way I wanted it to, and it exceeded my expectations. It didn't exceed the stage play, in my opinion, but it did exceed my expectations. I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I've loved it the times I've watched it since then. It's just a really great film, and I understand some of the criticisms of it, but I don't have many of those. So there we are. I'm Still Here is number 2. In a world where the substance doesn't exist, I'm Still Here would be my number 1 on this list, but because again, Fernando Torres, powerhouse, drives that movie. It's such a beautiful story of rebellion, and I'm so glad it exists. I'm so glad that it was nominated and that I was able to watch it. I hope that it reaches a very wide audience, because I think a lot of people would very, very much enjoy this movie. But my number 1 is going to be as surprising as Emilia Perez was at number 10. My number 1 is The Substance. My favorite ending of the year is in The Substance. I know a lot of people have a problem with that ending. I absolutely love it. So many of my favorite things happen in this movie. It's funny, it's scary, it's gory, it's gross, it's beautiful, and it tells a true thing that is not a surprise to anybody. It's not telling anybody anything they don't know, but it's illustrating it in a way that we've never seen it illustrated before, which I think is incredible. So The Substance is my number 1 of this slate. If Challengers was on this, Challengers would be my number 1 because it is my favorite movie of the year. But Substance is my number 2, my second favorite movie of the year. And I have a very soft spot for this movie. I love it very, very much. But that is my number 1 there. What do I think is going to win? I've been saying all year, Substance is coming in with a steel chair and is going to take all of the awards. But that was always a joke. It's not going to do that. I think it comes down to two films. I think it comes down to Anora, and it comes down to The Brutalist, with the outside chance of Conclave coming in based on the preferential ballots. But I think it's really down to these two, Brutalist or Anora. And I think that Anora takes this. I think we're going to see Sean Baker, Mikey Madison, Yuri Borisov, Mark Edelstein, everybody. We're going to see them up on the stage at the end of the night accepting their award for Best Picture. So that's where it is. Again, this could all change tomorrow. Tell me in the comments, what do you think is going to win in these categories? What do you think is going to win Best Picture? If you just want to do that, tell me that. Of course, specify, because if you did write Amelia Perez in the comments earlier when I told you to, I don't want anybody to get confused about that, unless Amelia Perez is your pick for Best Picture, which, listen, I wouldn't blame you. I understand. It is a movie unlike many people have ever seen, including me. And I think that some of the stuff it does would definitely make it deserve it, but some of the stuff it does, that some of the other stuff it does, makes me not want it anywhere near that statue. So tell me, what is your favorite Best Picture winner? What do you think is going to win? Or in any of the categories, what do you think is going to win? What's your favorite? Be sure to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe, hit that bell notification, because I've got videos coming out all the time. I'm currently doing a 52-week movie watching challenge, where every week I have a new theme that I watch films based on that. And then at the end of the week, I will put out a video telling you about the movies I watched and giving you my reviews of them. And it's a lot of fun. Some people seem to like it. Maybe you'll like it. So come back and join us for that. But talk to me in the comments. Bye.